So this is going to be interesting. You can tell I haven't done this in a little while. So this is not my first time back in a movie theater, but this is my first time reviewing a movie immediately after seeing it in a movie theater in over a year and a half. And you can tell because I forgot my mini light source that I use. I forgot to charge my cell phone before I left the house. Just a lot of those little things that used to be habit have kind of I got to get back into. But here we are. All right. Trying to play catch up a little bit before the summer and take in a couple movies while I wind down the school year. And I'm glad I was able to catch this one. So this is one that they advertised and for some reason decided that this one was only going to be available in theaters as opposed to the theater and same day digital or on demand, which is weird really because this isn't a huge movie. So you'd think they'd put it out on as many platforms as they could to try to get people to see it, because I can't imagine, especially with the blockbuster season trying to get started back up again, that a small movie like this was going to pull much of a crowd. And that's a damn shame, because this is a really, really good movie. Really good, really touching little movie. A movie where you kind of know what you're going to get, or so you think. You can kind of tell from the trailers the pattern this is going to go, just because it's the way movies work. So if you haven't heard of this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't, written and directed by comedy legend Billy Crystal. So in this film, Billy Crystal plays a aging comedy writer who's, he has a decent life, but he's dealing with some trauma. He's, doesn't have the best relationship with his kids. He's an old relic of comedy in a new era of comedy and trying to kind of stay relevant. And kind of by accident, he meets this young woman played by Tiffany Haddish, and it's one of those things about generations clashing a little bit. Not even clashing, just generations playing off each other, and the two of them form a budding friendship. Everybody thinks that they're involved in a relationship. They don't know if they're involved in a relationship. His family doesn't really approve of her. You kind of get the comedy of where this is coming from. And again, if you've ever seen a movie before, you kind of know that there's most likely going to be some trauma that comes along. And sure enough, it does. Only they go a different way. Billy Crystal's character is not dying. He has dementia, and he is starting to slowly lose memories and starting to act out. And Emma, played by Tiffany Haddish, is the only one who knows and is kind of serving as his confidant and his friend as he goes through this very difficult transition. So there's a lot going on in this movie that I really enjoyed, and what I enjoyed about them is this tiny kind of twist they put on the old formula. I like that this is a friendship. We've seen this movie, this kind of plot device in a lot of films, a young person making friends with an older person and there's a generation clash, blah, blah, blah. But I like that there is the slight bit of sexual tension between the two. It never gives in. They're always friends, but you see that there is an attraction there. They never act on it, but in most of these things, that aspect never comes into it. Normally, I'd be happy about that, going, you don't always need that. But I thought it added a bit of flavor to this one. I also like that their friendship begins with sarcasm. Billy Crystal, at his height, was one of the best at the kind of sarcastic remark and the overly dry and yet overly sarcastic delivery. And sarcasm is kind of the comedy of the day. Everybody's sarcastic now in movies. So I like how these two kind of start bonding through sarcasm. And the differences in the generations of sarcasm. I have to say, I was very impressed with this film, and from Billy Crystal as both a performer, a writer, and a director. Now, Billy Crystal has always been a funny guy. I think if I was pressed, I'd probably say that he's one of my favorite comedians of his generation. And I really didn't think that till I was getting ready to see this movie, and I was thinking of all the Billy Crystal movies I have that I really love. When Harry Met Sally, Forget Paris, City Slickers, Analyze This. There is just a lot of his stuff that I really enjoy. And one of the things I really like about him as a performer, as a comedic performer, is that he never overshadows his co-star. His comedy is not the type of comedy, and his on-screen persona was not the type where he kind of took over the movie and everybody else kind of had to act around him. You think in terms of people like, Jim Carrey or Robin Williams. That's kind of how their comedy worked. It was very big, and they kind of were this force of nature, and everybody else had to kind of prop it up. But Billy Crystal's method of comedic performing was always to work with the co-stars, make them funnier, and make him seem funnier, comparatively. Not comparatively, you know what I mean. You look at, his work with Bruno Kirby and Daniel Stern in City Slickers, or with Robert De Niro and Analyze This, and you can see this. He matches them, and he allows the other actors to elevate up. Now, that's him as a comedian, and that's always been his strength. But, he was always one of these comedic actors that never quite broke out with the dramatic role, like Whoopi Goldberg or Robin Williams were able to do, his comedy relief cohorts there. He tried. I remember he did a film, Mr. Saturday Night, where that was trying to be his, big dramatic turn, and it didn't quite work out. The movie got very, very mixed reviews, as I remember. So he's never really had that dramatic turn that I think he was always looking for. And I really think acting-wise, he did a very, very good job in this. Especially as I was just thinking, as I started talking about how the movie is long. But it's so interesting because when you think about Billy Crystal's performance at the beginning of the movie, and you think about him at the end of the movie, and he's playing a character suffering from dementia who is slowly deteriorating, and you compare those two performances. You just watched the beginning of the film and his last scene. It's night and day. And what's creepy about the performance is that you don't notice it. You really don't notice it until the end, when you realize how far the character has gone. That's really hard to do. And I really give Billy Crystal a lot of acting credit in this one. I think he really, I believe he's always wanted that dramatic turn that he never really got, and I think he manufactured it for himself. I also have to say that I really respect him as a writer in this one, and I think he's come a long way as a director. I've never thought he was the best director. He's only directed a few things that I've seen, and they're very pedestrian. And there's still some pedestrian elements to this one, but he gets a little bit more creative in certain scenes out of necessity. His character has a lot of flashbacks to his late wife. He's telling the story of how he met his wife and the various adventures they've been on. And whenever he's flashing back, it's done in like a first-person perspective. You don't see him in the film, you just see him looking at his wife and his wife's reactions. And I think this is brilliant for two reasons. Number one, it gives us that point of view shot. And number two, it means you don't have to worry about making Billy Crystal look younger. You don't need CGI and all this, which is good because this is not that type of movie. It's a very down-to-earth film, so I think trying to do young Billy Crystal with computers would have just looked horrible. So I think making that really smart choice of doing it first-person perspective not only lets us see the world through his eyes, the world that he is slowly losing, but also is a smart director choice around a sticky problem. That's good directing. I also have to give a lot of credit to Tiffany Haddish here. I hope I'm saying her name right. I don't think I am. So I apologize. An actor who I have not really heard of. I checked her IMDb page, and there's nothing in it I really recognize, or if I've seen the movie, I don't recognize her contribution to it. So for me, this is my first introduction to her, and it is a really, really good one, a really powerful role. And again, she starts out very, very sarcastic, maybe a little too overblown, maybe a little too stereotypical in the early goings, but I don't know, their friendship felt very natural and very beautiful. You could understand why these two people made the connection that they did and why they formed the friendship that they did. I think the film really, really hits home in that regard. I like how this movie subverts the negative impulses you have while watching it. What I mean by that is I've become jaded from watching a lot of movies that become very formulaic, and you're waiting for certain moments to happen. For instance, when we first meet her, she accidentally eats too much seafood and has an allergic reaction. She tells the people at the hospital Billy Crystal is her father because she doesn't have insurance. And you're thinking, okay, it's going to turn out that she's some kind of con woman, and this has all been a big con, and she actually, but then she develops feeling for him because something has to lead to the all is lost moment. Right? We all know the all is lost moment is coming. So you're like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And it doesn't happen. She's not a con artist. In fact, the all is lost moment never actually happens. It doesn't have the traditional friend meets friend, and friends break up because of misunderstanding and they have to get back together. It never does that shit. Billy Crystal's character works as a writer on a sketch comedy thing, kind of, I think, reminiscent of Saturday Night Live, kind of. And he's working with a young writer who is about to get fired, and he's saying, no, this guy's got talent, you just need to give him a chance. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, this kid is going to betray him somehow. He's going to steal his work, or he's going to say something rude, or he's going to leak something about his dementia to the press. Whatever. You're always thinking that somebody is going to betray him because something has to lead to that all is lost moment. No, that doesn't happen. This movie is populated by generally good people. It is so sad. It is so sad that this movie is populated by generally good people, and yet as an audience member, I'm distrustful of it. I'm just like, wait, what? Nah, somebody's got to be an asshole. The closest one that comes is his daughter, who blames him for the death of their mother, which happened when they were kids, and yet she's in her 40s now, and she still hasn't talked this out with him. But I guess that is how things really do happen, unfortunately, sometimes. So she's the closest thing, but she's not even a bad person. She's just angry and hurt. I like that Billy Crystal's character doesn't deny his illness or try to hide it from his doctor or anything like that. Or that he doesn't accept that he messed up as a father. It goes against a lot of cliches. It's a lot of small choices. But they equal out to making the film feel real and making the characters feel more fleshed out and more believable. And as such, because people are behaving in a believable way, both in the positive and the negative, it makes the beauty of the friendship, and it makes the tragedy of what's happening all the more poignant from an audience perspective. You really feel it. I do feel like the film is a little disjointed at times. It doesn't flow very well. It doesn't. One moment does not smoothly transition to another very well. And again, I say Billy Crystal is a okay director, but he's not a good one. And I think it's things like that, and also a little bit of the writing from him, that this film has a lot of good scenes, but there are, again, they feel disjointed, and one scene doesn't always naturally follow another. And if you were asking me, well, how would you redo it? I can't tell you. I don't know how I would, and I don't know exactly how to expand on that thought process. So I guess it's one of those things of don't bitch about it unless you have a better suggestion, which I clearly do not. But it does feel like it goes off in some different directions, or sometimes it sticks with scenes a little too long. There's the breaking point. The closest we get to an all is lost moment is not when he breaks up with his friend or someone betrays him or something to that effect. He has a breakdown during the live taping of one of the shows with one of the actors on the show who never gets inflections right. And it finally just gets to him, and he goes off and chews this guy out on live TV. And it's a funny scene. It's funny and tragic at the same time. It's funny from the aspect of what he's saying is very funny, but obviously tragic because we, the audience, know that this is not him being funny. This is him really snapping, which is a difficult line to walk when you really think about it. But the thing is the scene goes on a little too long. And I can understand it if the goal was to try to make us, the audience, even more uncomfortable with it. But I feel like, and I think that may have been what he was going for, but I don't think it played well. I think you could have done more. If that's what you're going for, to try to make us, the audience, more uncomfortable with the situation the longer it goes, I think you can do other things with the camera. You can, change your angles, go Dutch angle or something like that to show that he's getting more and more lost in the rant. And while everyone else thinks it's funny, for him, it really is a personal hell. And I think there are other things that could have been done, but as it is, the scene is just, it goes on just a little too long and it's a little too flat. So that's an example. But again, I really love all the flashback stuff he does with his wife. I think that's all really, really beautiful. I'm really glad I caught this one, and I caught it kind of at the last possible minute. It's been out for a little while, and I do believe it's heading out of the theaters on Friday to make room for the next batch of releases. So I'm glad that I was able to get out and go see this one, because I think it is a really sweet film, an appropriate one to watch on National Best Friends Day. I don't really give in to Facebook holidays that much, but I think this was a good one to watch on a day like this. So let's see. I don't think there's much more to talk about with this one. So let's just skip to the end. So final grade for here today, I'm gonna go an A- on this one. It has some flaws in the directing and in the writing and in the pacing, but it makes up for that with clever subversions of tropes. It makes up for it with an outstanding performance from Billy Crystal and really the entire cast. It makes up for it with some genuinely touching and heartwarming scenes, and for getting you to actually have the feels, which, again, I think is more difficult than, for me at least, than it is for a lot of people, because when I see a movie like this, I'm automatically programmed, again, the very cynical nature of my brain, to think, okay, this is going to try to get me to cry. That's what it's trying to do. So when I know that, just automatically shields go up, and I am guarding against that, that like, oh, it's like I dare you to try, and then I leave and go, ha, but this one, again, through good storytelling and good characters and a really scary real life thing, it really gets the feels from me. So I really appreciate it. I'm going A-. Only other downside to it is every time I see a movie like this, every time I forget something, I start freaking out. Oh my God, So yeah, but I think it's a lovely little movie. It's not big, it's not loud, it's not going to grab your attention, but I think one of the overarching themes of the film is one of the things I think about the film, and that is there's beauty in ordinary things. This is an ordinary little film. It's It's not making any big, bold statements or anything earth-shattering. Just that, you know, friendship is nice. And sometimes that's good to know. So, I really enjoyed it. So, if you got a chance, check it out. Watch it with a friend. All right, so there you have it. It's good to be back in the groove. I'm going to try to hit one more of these before the summer really kicks into high gear. It's great to be back in the drive home reviews formula. We'll see if we can do a little better with the camera and everything next time. So thank you for joining me, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.